up on the stage sharing their knowledge. And invited guest, Dr. Sheila Walker, who has been a professor at University of Texas, Austin, and at Spelman University, and who has spoken before the UN and written many books, studies cultural anthropology, and I happened to find of the many books among Dr. Hernandez's library, one of her edited books that I'll ask her a few questions about, that from 1996. Yeah. So to begin with, what stood out to me was what our topic of the day today is, which is the differential life chances of young Afro-Latina women in relation to racism. So being an Afro-Latina in this world, one, to realize that we have other African descendants in the Americas. But I'll turn to Dr. Sheila Walker. Where have you traveled among the Americas? And we were speaking about, I asked her, well, where have you been Spanish-speaking? And to what Spanish-speaking countries? And she said, well, better to ask me where have I not been, okay? Where have I not been? So in a terrific memory that Dr. Walker has. So can you tell us some of your concepts or your take-home for students regarding Afro-Latinas in the Americas? It's a big question.
Yeah, it's really, well, first of all, I'm from New Jersey, so I am not an Afro-Latina, and what right do I have to talk about other people? But as a result of, and with response to the question about what Spanish-speaking countries have I not been to, the answer is actually, well, the answer, which ones I've been to, that takes a while. It's easier to say which ones I haven't been to, which are Equatorial Guinea, the only Spanish-speaking country in Africa, and El Salvador. Wow. So that's the answer to that. That's pretty easy. So I would think that maybe an Afro-Latina should begin by talking about Afro-Latinas, not me. I'm from Jersey.
Okay, so our Afro-Latina that is on the stage, Kiana Gote, what would be really something to take home that you'd like students to know about Afro-Latinas from your perspective?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. So one thing that I would like students to learn about Afro-Latinas or Afro-Latinos, Afro-Latinx, is that we are all, at the end of the day, Black. Just because our cultures and languages are different does not mean that I am better or lesser than you in any way.
Have you had any students surprised towards you that it's like, wait a second, oh, by the way, we could just converse here in Spanish, you see, between the three of us, right? ¿Cómo estás? And we have Spanish-speaking students among our student groups, but what kind of questions have you found that students have asked you that has surprised you or is difficult for you to get across to them? Any difficulty in being accepted, maybe, or that they're surprised?
Well, some of the crazy things comments I've received after people find out that I'm Afro-Latina are, oh, are you adopted? I'm like, no, both of my parents are Honduran. So how are you Black? Or you're not Black. No, I'm actually Black. It's just that my race and my ethnicity happen to be two different things, where my race is Black because I physically look Black, and my ethnicity would be Hispanic because my parents and my ancestry is from a Hispanic country. That's basically it.
Have you had a lot of reception of the group that you've formed, or have students asked you about what are the activities that you put together? I know I've gone to several of them and they're very informative. So what would you like to tell the students about your group that you've told me that you felt the need that this group needed to be formed? There was a calling that you had, right, to form this group. So how's it going, and what kind of activities have you done so far?
Well, so far, it's a brand new organization, so we don't have that many members, which is fine. And some of the programs we've had is actually Afro Latino Movie Night, where we watched a movie on the history of salsa and how salsa came about. We've had a salsa night actually last week, which was an amazing turnout. I think those are some of our programs we've had. Oh yeah, so this is some of our programs. We're having this program, and we'll also be having the Punta Night, which is like the traditional dance from my culture, the Garifuna culture. I get questions, but I guess with me living off campus, I'm not around enough to like inform people on the organization, but on my social media and as much as I can, I try to inform other people that there's an Afro-Latino organization. You do not have to be Afro-Latino to join, disclaimer. It's just, I started it and I felt the need because there are a lot of us and people fail to realize that we're here, or the media has been hiding us out for such a long time, and I kind of got tired of that. And I just want people to just learn and not, I was getting kind of overwhelmed with the comments I used to receive growing up about being Afro-Latina. Like, that was just, yeah.
You have to choose one or the other.
Yeah, and I don't have to choose, yeah. I don't have to choose. I am Afro-Latina, point period blank.
And Dr. Walker, so I understand that you just came back from Burkina Faso, and there was a film festival in Burkina Faso in which you were literally. She arrived yesterday from Africa, from Burkina Faso, and you were a judge of a film festival, an African film festival, and so just off. I didn't ask her this before, so I'm wondering, what did you see there of women in film, women as part of that? Did you see was there anything that you could have, with your travels in the Americas, could you see any influence maybe going back to Africa? Anyway, those are 2 points. One, the presence of women in those films, or in the production of the films, and whether or not you saw any connection to the Americas, cultures in the Americas.
Well, I was the judge of the feature films at the Pan-African Film Festival of Ouagadougou, Ouagadougou being the capital of Burkina Faso, a country in West Africa that I like a lot. This was the African Film Festival. It takes place every 2 years, and I was kind of overwhelmed by watching 20 African films in 5 days. That's a lot of films. One day we saw 6 films. One of the, there were not many films by women, I think only 2, both of which were films that received one of the prizes. There are a bunch of prizes for different things. There's like just the films that are considered overall the best, and then there's best script, best editing, best various things. So the films by women were some of the most positive ones. First of all, there was more violence than I'm accustomed to, but one of the suggestions was a lot of the films are financed by Europeans, who may have a way to manipulate the kind of images that Africans choose to show of their societies, because the Europeans say, well, if you want my money, let me just tell you what I want you to show. Okay, so I guess the women were more independent of that kind of a worldview. One of the things I'd like to say about the whole issue of being, the identities in the African diaspora, we, U.S. African Americans, like other people who are citizens of the United States, tend to have an amazingly narrow worldview. And we tend to think that we're the center of the world. And we, U.S. African Americans, I'm from New Jersey, tend to think that we are the African Americans, we are the African diasporans. And if we could count, that we know we were absolutely wrong. The major country in the African diaspora is Brazil. The major language of the African diaspora is Portuguese. According to the most recent national census, 2010, the majority of Brazilians self-identify as Afro-Brazilians. And this is in a country that, unlike the United States, does not have the one-drop rule. So we African Americans can be very, very pale and look like we're Europeans, or we can be very, very dark and look like we are the kind of Africans who are very, very dark. Of course, all Africans don't look the same. In Brazil, they have all these different categories, right? There's black, they have all kinds of words. There are people who characterize themselves as mulattoes or poorly mixed or sarara, have a lot of words. But as a result, and so there used to be, and I guess some people may still believe in it, the myth of racial democracy in Brazil. So racism was something from the United States. Brazil didn't have that. Well, that of course is not true. It's not true any place in the Americas that there's no racism. Every place in the Americas is racist because every place in the Americas was built on the genocide of the original people and the enslavement of Africans. And I'm always amazed at my ignorance of the African diaspora in the Americas and the rest of the world. And my ignorance is well-founded. I went to school in the United States. Of course, had I gone to school anyplace else, I'd be even more ignorant than I am. And my only way of overcoming my ignorance is not just going to the library. I have to go to other countries. That's the only way to get rid of my ignorance. And I thought that this discussion was going to be in Spanish, frankly, because it's about Afro-Latinas. Entonces yo me preparé psicológicamente para hablar español con ustedes. However, it is now my understanding that I don't have to work so hard. I was really lucky. I went to an undergraduate school that had a very archaic requirement. We were required to study 2 foreign languages, to pass exams in 2 foreign languages. And that's the best thing that ever happened to me, because that made me able to travel and to talk to people when I got there, and to not expect them to speak to me in English. That's made a huge difference.
I am, because it's really huge, and it's students. In the United States, we are seriously limited by depending on others to translate for us, and you don't have the same reception in other countries. So, yeah. So you started at what languages do you speak, Dr. Walker?
I speak some Spanish. It's not perfect, but it gets me by. I speak some